Hey Flock, how's it going? It is 5:18 in the early evening hours on Monday, October 28th. We're closing down the month here shortly this week. The November trade deadline, the NFL trade deadline, is 8 days from today. Excuse me, 7 days from tomorrow, 8 days from now. And of course, that's 4 p.m. Eastern on November 5th. Tonight's live stream is brought to you by my friends at Primary Residential Mortgage. And as you see in the YouTube headline, an ESPN analyst by the name of Dan Orlovsky has called out by name Ravens defensive coordinator Zach Orr and cited a key disadvantage that he put his team into late in the game yesterday. I want to be really clear. There's been a lot of debate. There's been a lot of conversation about where to divvy up the blame, where to point the finger. And I think it's across the board. With that said, I have been, I'd say, pretty fiercely defending in some cases the blanket statements that have been thrown around um, regarding Zach Orr and this thought that canning him, demoting him, or just quite simply changing things immediately at the coordinator position would lead to change, would lead to success, would lead to a step in the right direction. And I just don't feel that way. I really don't. And there's a number of reasons as to why. Zach is a 32-year-old first-year defensive coordinator, as we all know. He has faced a murderer's row first-place schedule to kick off his play caller career through these first 8 weeks. Coming off this past weekend, obviously he had a couple of his horses down and unavailable, particularly on the back end with Marlon Humphrey not being available and Nate Wiggins not even traveling due to an illness. In the first half, he also lost a couple of his veteran rush run stopper specialists, Brent Urban and Michael Pierce. We'll see how serious those injuries are. I know Brent Urban's was a concussion, but the reality is, on top of all of those setbacks, which every single play caller deals with throughout the course of an NFL season, he himself hasn't been good enough. A couple areas, having watched some film study, having watched the game back throughout parts of today, I think from a disguise standpoint, the simulated pressure packages that he's utilizing, I just don't know if they have the personnel right now to operate in a similar form and fashion with which Mike McDonald called this defense last year, which was a historic defense, and of course, the year prior to that as well. I think you have a lot of new faces. You have a lot of new coaching staff members up and down the defense. And obviously, you've got some youth in there as well. And so I think simplifying it, finding ways to simplify it, and bringing the exotic looks back when you can build up some confidence here and you can start to build some cohesion, I think would be a wise place to start. With all of that in mind, okay, the numbers look horrific, and there's really no way around that. This NFL Live graphic from just within the last hour, I went ahead and pulled a screenshot of it because this is pretty egregious. And here's where the Ravens rank in terms of passing defense metrics league wide, okay? Last in passing yards per game allowed with over 291. Tied for last in passing touchdowns allowed with 17. And dead last in 15 air yard completions allowed, okay, with 40. And that little note down below, that's 7 more than the next closest team, okay? They haven't been functioning like a championship caliber defense. They've allowed a league high 9 touchdowns from outside of the red zone. And we know that they were the 32nd ranked passing defense entering week 8. I don't expect that metric, that category to change whatsoever. It hasn't been good enough. And in the game's waning moments, when all was on the line in Cleveland, Zach Orr wasn't good enough. And in Dan Orlovsky's opinion, former NFL quarterback turned ESPN analyst, he felt like ZO became a little bit predictable from a play calling standpoint. And the blitzes that he divvied up on that final drive, which would end up becoming the game-winning drive for Jameis Winston and the Cleveland Browns. Listen to Dan.
I don't trust Baltimore's defense. I think you got to pin part of that loss late on their defensive coordinator, Zach Orr. RC, you hit it to a T, and you check me if you think I'm wrong here. I think their defense got predictable. Buck 26, 1st and 10. You're going to get all-out blitz, meaning cover zero, so they're going to blitz everybody defensively, and they're going to play man coverage across the board. You're trying to keep them out of the end zone, not right or out of field goal range. Okay, so easy completion. Very next play, 2nd and 3. All-out pressure. Everybody's going to play man coverage across the board. Offensively, I start to get a tell. Okay, what are you doing? So, all right, we waste the football. All right, not a good play for us offensively. Very next play, all-out pressure. Everybody at the line of scrimmage going to blitz. What's the tell here? Now, as an offensive coordinator, Ken Dorsey, you're starting to anticipate, almost not guess, but predict what the defense is going to do. Elijah Moore, just a quick little out route, because I know what defense you're in. I'm calling easy plays versus what you're going to do. Very next play, all-out pressure. 1st and 15 after the penalty. Pre-snap, everybody's going to blitz off the ball or at the line of scrimmage. You're going to play man coverage across the board. We're going to block it up. 1st and 15. Ball comes out. Great. Jameis misses it, or Kyle Hamilton drops it. Guys, the very next play, you run all-out pressure again. Everybody's going to blitz. So what do, Cleveland and Ken Dorsey? They're going to block it up. They're going to protect because you're predictable now, and then we take our shot down the field. I just think, as an offensive perspective, you run an all-out pressure 6 times in a row, at some point you become very predictable, and I bank on you doing that, and I think that puts your defense at a disadvantage.
Yeah.
A lot of concerning language included in that breakdown from Dan Orlovsky. That's tough on a defense. Puts your defense in a disadvantage, and they became predictable. Is there anything that sticks out or that reminds you of? Predictability? That was the other side of the football towards the end of the Greg Roman era on the offensive side of the football. And now, years later, it's coming up defensively. At least it was on that drive, which was supposed to be a game-closing drive from Zach Orr's defense. All-out pressure was sent on 6 straight plays. And so if you're Ken Dorsey, as Dan Orlovsky was noting there, and you're calling the plays for the first time in your tenure as a Cleveland Brown, he was hired in the offseason after being let go in season by the Buffalo Bills. All of a sudden, you're seeing these tells. You're picking up on these tells, and you're able to start to kind of use that to your advantage from a play calling standpoint. And so as much as I've been sort of on the front lines, if you will, of defending Zach Orr, which I think has been warranted in some cases, this was not one of his better looks. This was not one of his better stretches as a play caller. And he didn't put his guys in a position to have success in the game's final moments. Would they have been there? Would they have even been in that situation had they reeled in at least one interception that was dropped? I'll have a statistic on that in just a second that was highly concerning. Baltimore was charged with 3 dropped interceptions in Week 8. That's according to PFF, and that might be putting it kindly. The only other instance of a defense dropping at least 3 picks in one game, guess when that was? These same Ravens against Buffalo in Week 4. The Ravens have 8, count them, 8 dropped interceptions on the season. No other defense has more than 5. I don't even know how you answer to it. John Harbaugh could barely even answer the question himself when he tried to address it after being asked about it earlier today during his day after press conference. What do you say other than got to get him next time? There's been so many next times, and this Ravens secondary, this Ravens defense has not cashed in on recklessness from opposing quarterbacks. Marlon Humphrey did in the first half last Monday night against Tampa Bay. But Jameis Winston finishes with a clean stat line. That's just unacceptable. He's been so turnover prone over the years, which has led to him becoming really transitioning into a backup QB in this league over the last several years. He goes 27 of 41, 3 touchdowns, no picks, and a quarterback rating of 115.3. Hadn't started in the league in years, and the Ravens allowed him to pitch a tent, as I mentioned last night, put up his feet, start a campfire, make s'mores, damn it, whatever you want to call it, in the pocket, which built his confidence up. He went into gunslinger mode. He made the right decisions for the most part. Again, Kyle Hamilton's got to take that interception, and I think he makes that play 99 times out of 100, and that game is over. But not yesterday. And a lot of folks in and around NFL circles commenting on what they're watching right now from this Ravens defense. Kurt Bankert, former NFL QB, took a look at the all-22 breakdown of Jameis Winston earlier today. And his one takeaway has nothing to do with Jameis's play. It's that in his mind, the Ravens defense schematically is so unsound that there's no way they will win a Super Bowl if they stay in the scheme they're currently running. He goes on to write, they give so many free completions everywhere because they want to disguise every single play. I feel like I'm watching Joe Barry all over again. Packers fan, get this. Packers fans, get this. To be honest with you, I don't get that because I haven't looked it up. So if you have any Packers fans in the chat or just football fans that understand that reference, help a guy out. The guest lines are open. I would love to get your thoughts on what was obviously a highly disappointing day and maybe a microcosm of what we've seen that's been masked by a dominant offense that looked pedestrian yesterday. Lamar with a couple brutal overthrows. Offensive line, we'll get into the pressures that they allowed as a group collectively. At least 3 drops, all of which came on third down. And some suspect play calls in there as well, like the 4th down wildcat to Derrick Henry on that opening drive. Chef Trez is with me. I'm sure he wants to come after me today. I've been seeing you in the live chat. I see you. Let's have a conversation. What's on your mind?
First off, I just want to say, Bobby, as much as you don't want to hear it, Sarah was spitting today. She was spitting. Just how Rave Kingdom said she was spitting. Because my first takeaway for the offense, to not have, faith in your guys in the trenches for, the offensive line, yeah, that's one thing. But you have Lamar and Derrick Henry, and you saw from the past 5 games, really, like, you've seen it from Lamar, like, even last year, you've seen them when it matters, they get it done. Like they'll get you that 1 yard or they'll get you that touchdown or something like that. So for them to call the whole Titans Wildcat thing, like we're not the Titans. We're not the Titans. We don't need to run that. That's not us. And Lamar has 2 MVPs for a reason. Derrick Henry is an all pro for a reason. You know, don't get cute. Run the offense. Do
Can I
what
just
you
say
do
though?
best.
Can I just say though, like obviously we're dissecting this because it didn't work out, and
Right.
hindsight's always 2020, which is what you always have to mention. But you're correct. Why are you taking out of MV3's hands if you don't have to? And I think from a feel standpoint, and that was the opening drive. Maybe Todd didn't have a great idea for where this game was headed, but points were going to come at a premium yesterday, and that was abundantly clear early on against this divisional opponent. And we know that statistics, you could throw the statistics out. You knew Cleveland was going to play the Ravens tough defensively. They've got athletes all over the field. They've got speed at all 3 levels. And obviously up front, they're ferocious, led by Myles Garrett, which is partly the reason why these numbers exist, which is what I wanted to pull up. And I will right now, not to cut you off, but the pressures allowed by the Ravens, according to PFF and compiled by Cole on X, Daniel Fa'alele led the way with 6. Ronnie had 5. Rosengarten had 4. McCary had 2, and Linderbaum had 1. So I just want to make sure that that's out there. Like this was absolutely a factor in Monken's design and Monken's overall strategy. He had to take this into account, knowing that that's the way the game was being played out.
Yeah, and I definitely think that was something that I had taken into account. But the point that I'm getting at, because this isn't the first time, even for the Charlie Kolar thing, this isn't the first time Monken called that. He called that with the, I believe, week 1 against the Chiefs. I believe we still got the first down, I believe, or I don't even know if we got the first down. But I know that, there was backlash because it was like, why are we running something like this when we have Derrick Henry back there and Lamar Jackson? Now, I get the whole, pressures and everything like that. However, having Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson still keeps the defense honest because they still have to account for number 8 who can, juke you right out of your cleats or hurdle a guy and have, 2 defenders jump into each other and he comes out scot clean. Or you have Derrick Henry who's going to lower his shoulder and, again, prayers up to JOK right now. Hopefully he's doing all right. But just like with Derrick Henry against the Bills, someone got a concussion trying to tackle him, hit his thigh. JOK got injured trying to tackle Derrick Henry. Again, it's going to be a physical game. We don't need to be cute about it. That's just how we play football. We don't have to be, trying to outsmart. Let's try and out scheme them to have them think like, well, Derrick Henry might try and throw the ball or something like that. To be honest, seeing it. Funny enough, my girlfriend, she said it gave the Greg Roman play call when we did like a triple option to James Prochet to throw it down into triple coverage for some reason. And it's like, why?
How the
We were
hell did
doing
she
good.
remember? That's good memory from your lady.
Well, yeah. But
I forgot about that. I forgot that play existed until just now. So good on her.
It was kind of similar in the ways that we were moving the ball down the field, running normal plays and everything, and then at the last second, we got cute for no reason and turnover, or in this case, turnover because it's turnover on downs.
Short yardage situations, and of course that 4th down call. There's been a little bit too much cuteness. I'm with you there. I think it was one of those days that ends up becoming susceptible of our nitpicking because of the small margin for error that the other side of the ball, which is what this entire conversation is about, forces the Ravens offense to live in. They are living in a world of such a thin margin for error. And you saw why when they're not firing on all cylinders, and you can't expect that from one side of the ball every single week for 17 straight weeks. And that was yesterday, and that tends to happen within division competition. And you saw the result. So, Trez, appreciate you, brother.
Sorry. I just have one.
Get one more thought in. Where'd you go? Man, I was going to give it to you, Chef. All right. Call back in if you want to get that final thought. I didn't mean to drop you like that. All right. John Harbaugh referenced and expanded a little bit more about Marcus Williams. Not much. And I'll have that coming up in just a second from today's press conference. But first, if you haven't heard, the rates are dropping, and this could mean big savings for your mortgage. If you want to get your home buying process started, now is the perfect time to work with my friends at Primary Residential Mortgage. They are the sole reasoning why I've been doing these pregame shows on the road at Michael's Cafe and Timonium. They've been hosting these events for me, and I've just been really thrilled to be partnering with them over the last year or so. Now is the perfect time to refinance and lock in a lower rate to reduce your monthly payments. PRMI is also going to cover your closing costs up to $750 on applications that are submitted by February 9th. Okay, so what an opportunity there. Obviously, the process of home buying can be stressful, and they're willing to obviously alleviate some of that anxiety, reduce some of that overall stress by covering your closing costs up to $750. You can take advantage of this offer by simply applying through the PRMI Mid-Atlantic website. Mention my name throughout your application process so you can make that incentive eligible. And please click on the link that's included as a pinned comment in the live chat and also at the top of the show notes, depending on what device you're watching tonight's stream on. That is something that is tracked by my brand sponsor, and it would go a long way. It would mean a lot, even if you're not interested or in the market for a new home, if you'll just click that link and check out the site. Guest lines are open. We'll get back to them in just a second. I wanted to chat about Marcus Williams just to catch us all up to speed on what the latest is with the Ravens veteran safety who was benched. He was benched. And John Harbaugh was asked today if he's going to play against Denver next week, and that wasn't the only thing he was asked about. Here is every single Marcus Williams-based answer from John Harbaugh's presser earlier today at the Castle.
After the game, that Marcus Williams would go on to play great football the rest of the year. Do you anticipate what happened yesterday being a one-game thing, and do you expect him to play against Denver?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to probably try to get into too much about who's going to play and who's not going to play in the game, but I'll just reiterate what I said before. Marcus is a heck of a player. I have the utmost confidence in him as a player, as a person, as a pro. He's a great person. He's a hard worker, plays hard, practices hard, does everything at the highest level. And I anticipate him playing great football for us, all season and very soon.
Is there any thought to him not being active yesterday?
Yeah, I think we don't ever really probably get into too much of the thought process and that kind of stuff. It goes the way it goes. We make the decisions that we make based on the best judgment we can make, try to do our best to try to do what we can.
John, I just want to clarify something on Marcus Williams. You said yesterday it was a personnel decision, but you also said it was an internal type of situation. I want to make sure,
I don't really think I have anything else to say about that. It's what we do. There's a lot of things going on all the time, and a lot of it's kind of our business. It kind of belongs in house. It's between us, and it's not something that we need to tell everybody everything about.
Part of John Harbaugh's answers earlier today as it relates to Marcus Williams, who again signed a 5-year, $70 million contract with the Ravens in free agency entering the 2022 season. He carries the third highest cap hit for the 2024 season, which is over $18.7 million. So that guy, that investment, was the one who did not log one snap. He was fully dressed. He was a healthy scratch. And he watched from the sideline throughout the entire day yesterday in Cleveland. As you heard, Harbs was asked if Marcus will play against Denver next week. And as Sarah transcribed, I'm not going to get too much into who is and isn't going to play in the game, but I'll reiterate what I said before. Marcus is a heck of a player. I have the utmost confidence in him as a player, as a pro. I anticipate him playing great football for us all season and very soon. That is the epitome of coaches speak. Then Jeff Zrebiec decided to go in and attempt to clarify, what Harbs meant yesterday by calling this decision to bench him an internal type situation. But John wouldn't expand on that. He said, quote, "I don't think I have anything else to say about that. It's what we do. There's a lot of things going on all the time, and a lot of it is kind of our business. It belongs in-house. It's between us, and it's not something we need to tell everyone about." Oh, boy. Well, this is a little hairy. And for those of you who are clamoring or hoping or praying for a trade, don't hold your breath. As Brian McFarland noted, Ravens salary cap analyst earlier today, Marcus's salary is now guaranteed, so nothing can be done this year. This offseason, if you were to be cut pre-June 1st, they would have to take on over $5.2 million in cap savings while carrying over $13 million in dead money. A post-June 1st release would save $12 million in cap space, but there'd still be over $6.7 million in dead money for both 2025 and 2026. So well over $12 million combined for those 2 seasons. And the other question is, who wants to trade for a guy who just got benched, for a guy whose head coach in a post-game press conference referred to his non-involvement as an internal type situation? Clearly, there is more than just his on-field play and performance that's an issue right now. I feel like that's the obvious. So who out there would be a willing trade partner for a guy who statistically ranks in the bottom corridor of the league in a number of metrics, for someone who clearly is expensive and maybe, just maybe, made a little bit of a stink behind closed doors, which could have led to the benching? Some of that is speculative. There's a chance, I suppose, that the Ravens were just trying to send Marcus a message based on his play. But referring to that as an internal type situation, you also go back to his media session from the end of last week, even though reporters who were there have since sort of downplayed the significance of his comments. But when asked about whether or not his role has changed this year compared to last, he couldn't really answer the question. Reporters have since referred to that as a non-answer. Again, downplaying it. My friend Cordell Woodland of 105.7 The Fan was the one whose tweet caught some steam, started to build up on social media. Perhaps it was overly built up. But that's the reality there. And the Ravens are in a predicament because of it. Because the guy who got more of an opportunity, Eddie Jackson and Ardarius Washington, particularly when it comes to Eddie, had a number of would-be game-changing plays that were gifted to him, game-changing balls that went through his hands. Now, credit to Eddie. He stood up there and faced the music post-game last night and referred to the team, defensively-wise, as being in a funk. And that funk may have not just begun yesterday in Cleveland. That funk actually could very well have been going on now for weeks, if not months, but just masked because of the way this offense has been chugging along, putting up 30-plus points in its sleep, seemingly week in and week out. But scuffled a bit yesterday for reasons that I've already highlighted. And here we sit through 8 weeks. The Ravens are 5-3 with the Denver Broncos coming to town on Sunday. Back to the guest lines we go. If you'd like to call in, please do. Let's go back to the man who saved me last night. And yes, he is rumored to be fighting for a co-host position here. And we'll have to get back to that when we'll figure it out if we can make that happen or not. Julian.
You know I had to laugh at that, Bobby.
You already know. How you digesting this one?
I was sitting there looking at that and I was just shaking my head. Because it's like you get tired of the same old hardball stick and it rings your head. I get some of his decisions, but then again, you just don't get it. You're like, in this situation, you're just like, sometimes it felt like he insults our intelligence and thinks we're dumb, like we don't understand what's going on here.
Coaches
And
speak
it's
and
like,
then some. Yeah, coaches
yeah,
speak definitely can come across as, at least on a day where this entire fan base is, the irritation levels are through the roof, right? So nobody really wants to listen to coaches speak. I hear you.
yeah, man. It's just it's I don't know, man. They I would say they need a pass rush, but you just said something about the salary cap, and I'm like, okay, all right, there's a problem there, but it's like we need to win now, and it's been too long, and it's been like year after year after year, and it just goes back to when the Super Bowl, after the Super Bowl. This goes back way back then, and it's been like way too long since we've been there, and it's like there's going to be seasons after seasons and wasting opportunities. And here we are, we got Lamar in his best season ever, and then we're just stuck in the same situation again. Just
You want to know another
wasting
team?
minutes.
You want to know another team that is operating in win now mode?
Kansas City.
That's right. They
I know.
went
I
ahead and
see.
traded Josh Uche today. That was during our lunch hour live stream.
Yeah.
Pass rusher from New England. So they're operating in win now mode right now. The Ravens have 8 days. Let's give them some time. They have 8 days to do so. And
Yeah.
obviously, if it's not a defensive acquisition between now and November 5th, that
We're gonna
feels like
be.
gross negligence. But hey,
Yeah. If they don't make a move, it's gonna be like, oh, yeah, the conference is gonna be like, yeah, we like our guys. That's the slogan. We got like our guys. We're good with what we got here. We
channeling
don't.
the great Buck Showalter.
It's just so annoying. Like, all right, we get what the Rams did when they went all in, but they build themselves back up a little bit. It's just it's a little bit here and there, but they went all in for that year, and they didn't care about the salary cap. They didn't care about draft picks. They traded for whoever they want, the hell they want to trade it for, and they won a Super Bowl. They did it.
Jewel,
And
I got a guest line that is absolutely jammed right now, so I'm going to keep
yeah.
it running. I
All right,
appreciate you, Emmanuel, taking care of me last night.
I got you. I'm gonna let you go, and I'll hit you up tomorrow.
Remember,
Same thing.
your 24-hour rule's in effect. Just get through today, big dog.
Oh yeah, you know me. I'll just get through it and then go to the next one.
That's right.
That's how we do.
Appreciate you, brother.
All right.
I'll catch up with you in a bit. Guest lines are open. There's a pinned comment if you would like to chat. The Ravens rushing this season. I'm watching NFL Live right now. Let me screenshot this to get this statistic. Rushing yards per game, weeks 1 through 7, 210.9. And then yards per carry per rush. Wait a second here. Basically, okay, what are they highlighting here? Yeah, they weren't able to do a whole lot. Both sides of the ball and special teams against Cleveland yesterday. Some cases you got to tip your cap to the Browns. In other cases, you got to kind of shake your head and start to divvy up blame. Harbs was asked about defensive communication breakdowns, which we saw. We have seen what feels like early and often. And he was quoted for saying, I watch a lot of tape and I see it all around the league, so I'm not going to single out our guys, but we're going to coach our guys. Our guys are our concern. And getting them the very best they can be. We'll chase that. I don't know if we can get it perfect, but we're going to try or we're going to die trying. That from John Harbaugh. I don't know why that whole kind of trying to cross compare to other teams to almost share their deficiencies to make it feel better around these parts first comes to mind. Probably not going to be well received, but that is what he said. Let's go to Juicebox, Carlos, Evan, Chef. I know I got to get you back in here as well. The guest lines are open. I'm glad you guys are here. There's over 600 of you joining me. Please like the video on your way in. Subscribe to the channel. Do all the good things to help growth. We're building here. I can't remember the order of what I just said, but Juice, you're up first. How you doing, brother?
Pretty good. How about you?
Good, man. What's on your mind today?
Man, so I'm in the comment section. Most of the time, I don't really say nothing, but I read a lot of people's stuff. So I know the past couple of weeks, a lot of people have been throwing shade at Roquan, talking about he's slow or he's whatever. And then you look at Marcus Williams, and they're like, okay, he's out of position and stuff like that. Now we have this new stuff where he looked like he's upset. So my takeaway from it is this: Zach Orr, his whatever system he's trying to run, he is not, in my opinion, not putting Roquan and Marcus Williams in the right spots for them to be the most productive like Mike McDonald was. See, if Eddie Jackson was in the right position that Marcus Williams should have been in, Marcus Williams has been out of position. But if he would have been in that game, Marcus Williams is a true ball hawk. He's coming down with those catches. He caught a pass on the sideline when Marlowe was hitting him, and if he wouldn't have landed out of bounds, last year, it would have been a pick. So, I mean, he could do it. And Roquan, the reason Roquan to me looks so slow is because whatever assignment they're putting him on, he's so far away from the ball that he has to beeline back over just to get in the damn play, which is why you see a lot of times the guy will be hitting the ground, and then here comes Roquan late looking like a heat-seeking missile, which I'm glad he does it, because it's like, man, Sprinkle as much lemon pepper on them hits as you can, because that's what Baltimore Ravens football is about. But for me, it's both of them. It's Zach Orr not really putting them in the correct position that fits their skill sets, and then it's also the players, when the play is there to be made, not making the play. And the only issue I have with offense is like the guy before me said, which is, why we getting cute, man? Listen, you think they're gonna put like Jamal Lewis in the Wildcat? No, they're gonna turn around and hand that man the ball. We got Derek freaking Henry, and we need 1 yard, and you got him and Lamar. Man, get that Wildcat crap out. I like Charlie, but can you imagine if Lamar does the fake handoff and cuts to the right and goes back around the corner? Because when people see Derrick Henry in there, the box is already loaded. Now, if you're going to do the Wildcat, then do us a favor. Let Derrick Henry throw a pass. I mean, he did it before. Nobody's expecting Lamar, if Lamar's wide right, nobody's expecting Lamar to catch a pass. They're looking at Derrick Henry trying to stop him. Lamar, look, I know Lamar could do it. Give him a little quick stutter step, quick in slant, let Derrick hit him, and then who knows, 30 yards down the field or something. But as far, I don't really have very much beef with the offense. Now, whoever Collier is on the kick returns, can we please get him out of the damn game? I have never in my life seen somebody catch a kickoff and run straight into the people trying to tackle him. Like, I don't know. I don't know where he came from, really. I don't know if he's just a draft pick this year or
he's an undrafted guy. Yeah.
Okay.
Collier's an undrafted guy, and he actually got singled out. You know, if you're getting singled out in a press conference for special teams, as he did today, that's some tough sledding right there.
Yeah.
Special teams has been subpar, and that's obviously unacceptable. It's unacceptable that they have penalties in special teams formations. Charlie Kohler took a horrible block in the back call that backed up the Ravens. Obviously, Justin Tucker misses from 50. That's been a group that it feels like weekly has some sort of gaffe. And for a John Harbaugh coach team, not good enough. Not good enough for Chris Horton, their special teams coordinator. Every single week, it seems as if there's something related to that group, whether it's field positioning earlier on in the season with Jordan Stout's punting, whether it's, again, the Charlie Kohlers, off-ball type of penalties that are just head scratchers, or Chris Collier making decisions, or Tylan Wallace a couple weeks ago, right? Fair catching, not fair catching, that's the type of stuff that's got to get cleaned up. It's just, is that the difference in yesterday? You can make the argument yes or no, but it's the stuff has to get cleaned up.
Yeah.
Juice Box, a lot of great stuff, brother. Appreciate you calling in, man.
Appreciate it, man.
Enjoy it. Captain Hard hit me with a super chat donation, and he says Zach Orr called out all-out pressure 6 times in a row on that last Cleveland drive. It might need to be a change like 6 times in a row. That's predictable. That's what we mentioned earlier on, as Dan Orlovsky eloquently put it on ESPN. The guest lines are open. We've got a lot to discuss. I appreciate you guys for being here. Over 700 of you concurrently watching across platforms, and this is a statistic that you will not want to see on the screen again, but the reality is this is the difference in the game. Okay, the Ravens were charged with 3 dropped picks against Cleveland, according to PFF. The only other instance of a defense dropping at least 3 picks in one game was these same Ravens. Okay, you got to go back to week 4 against Buffalo. In total, Baltimore has 8 on the season. No other defense has more than 5. John Harbaugh was asked about it during his press conference today and had no answers. Do any of us have answers for this? It's horrible. And that is the difference. Make no mistake about it. While there's blame to go around, any one of those picks, and by the way, I think that's a generous number. 3? I thought Eddie had 3 alone, and Kyle Hamilton had a 4th. Listen to Jameis Winston about that play where he gifted Kyle Hamilton a ball.
I started praying instantly. Like, it was only by the grace of God. And I think when situations like that happen, you always sit back and you're like, man, I still got the stuff to work on, right? Because it could have been a matter of whatever. Who knows how we would feel right now if that would have happened. But I'm so grateful that that was an if. And ifs and shoulds and woulda, couldas don't mean nothing in this game.
I started praying instantly. It was only by the grace of God. That's coming from the opposing team's quarterback. Good Lord. Back to the guest lines we go. Carlos, talk to me. How you feeling today?
Hey, what's up, man? What's up, chat?
Good to see you, dude.
Yo, Winston, funny, man.
Oh, the guy cracks me up.
I seen him praying on the TV too. But man, I want to just
He was
talk.
dropping Eminem one-liners as well
Yeah.
in his pregame interview. This guy's complete character. I have no idea how he's received in that locker room, but hey.
Nah, for real. But I'm here to talk about straight up Eddie Jackson, man. Like, it's just terrible. I think he's statistically the worst safety in the league right now. How do you bench Marcus Williams, but not bench Eddie Jackson, who's statistically, no, granted, Marcus Williams like third, 75th from 78, but Eddie Jackson is worse. Like
Eddie,
I believe Marcus Williams is at least catching like one of those picks that Eddie Jackson just like he dropped three. They said two. He dropped three because he tipped one and he touched it. So I count if it touch your hands, that's a drop.
that's what I thought.
So that's three like straight through your man. Come on now, that is just terrible. You can't cover, you can't catch the pick, you can barely tackle. What are you out there for? Like.
Yeah,
You out
look,
there for you getting paid for cardio.
if he's not kind of in the same boat that Marcus was last weekend, this upcoming weekend, I'll be scratching my head on that one because while he did get up there, he faced the music like any pro would, taking questions last night. Look, 2 or 3 piece of cake routine interceptions dropped, right? And then, of course, got dusted on that, what ended up becoming game-winning touchdown there in the fourth quarter when Jameis hooked up with Cedric Tillman. So, and it was a cover 0, tough assignment, whatever. But this is a player who has spent his entire career in Chicago. The Ravens were pretty cheap by bringing him in, right? It was a cheap move by bringing him in. I know a lot of people wanted Justin Simmons at the safety position, but they just weren't going to honor that price tag because of their cap situation. So they went cheap, and unfortunately, that's coming back to bite them through 8 weeks.
Right. And yeah, that's just Eddie Jackson, man. You gotta be better. Like, and honestly, I say cut him. You can't tell me that he's the worst safety in the league. Why do you even have Ed Reed can come in right now and play better than that? Like
if they cut him, I'm sure it wouldn't be. Yeah, I have to look up the numbers if they were to do that, but they didn't invest too much. So we'll see if he has a role on this team moving forward. I mean, it's a veteran. He's was once savvy, but looks like he's lost a step for sure. And I remember Bears fans on social hitting up my mentions when that deal came down in the latter half of free agency over the summer. And they kind of like were hinting at this could have been the case. This might have been the case for Eddie. And so far through 8 weeks, it's looking as if that was in reality.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and one quick thing about the defense, the pass rush, man. Hey, the defense Swiss cheese out there, but the pass rush, Jameson Winston he was back there building the whole fort. How much time he had back there in that pocket. Yeah, Bo Nix next week, he gonna look like prime Peyton Manning. That's say I'm out.
If that ends up being the case, that's a major issue. But you're right; he had all kinds of time, and it certainly put him in a comfort level for his first start as a Brown. So, Carlos, appreciate you for calling in, man.
No problem, man.
Talk to you soon, Evan. Let's get you in here. I know you got a lot to say as you walk throughout the beautiful fall foliage streets of Maryland or wherever the hell you are right now. You've been very active in the chat today, so get what you got for me.
Oh, man, I'm not as bad as I probably should be. I'm in DC, by the way, but
Okay.
and I think part of that is just, and a lot of us did, we expected this to happen, right? Going into this game, a lot of us called this a trap game. A lot of us said that Cleveland was going to hang with us. And I think that, to me, is a hardball thing. is this and the coaching team as a whole over the past 4 or 5 years has failed to consistently have this team prepared to win games that they should blow these teams out with. You look at the Raiders this year, you look at the Browns this year, you look at the Colts last year, you look at the Steelers twice last year. We had more talent than the Steelers. Look at the Browns game. It's a trend, and we touched on it at the beginning of this year when we collapsed against the Raiders, but it hasn't gone away, and it's a culture thing, man. They seize up and underperform and play down to the teams that they're playing against. And sure, you can say some of that comes down to execution, but when I look at that defense, when I look at their body language, they don't look like they want to be there. They look confused, they look out of position, and they look, there's no fire behind their asses. And again, to me, that goes on coaching. And we could talk about the drop balls and stuff like that, but I think we're underestimating what having a boss that you don't see eye to eye with, what having a boss that you're questioning their decision making and you don't feel that they're qualified for the position they're in, what that can do for your morale. And
We don't
what
know if
that's gonna
those
do
things
for
are true, though. Those are
We-
speculative.
100% speculative, but I have a hard time believing those things aren't true for the reason that when I posted that super chat in the lunch hour about these guys being all pros last year, and where is that this year? You don't think that these guys are thinking, man, it's weird how I had so much success last year, and now we got this new coach, and Roquan's sitting there being like, yeah, he has me lined up at the line of scrimmage 90% of the downs, even though I want to be in coverage, and I'm late on every play, and everyone's calling me slow, when in reality, I'm not in the right position. You don't think that guy has any qualms with Zach Orr? You don't think Marcus Williams getting benched this week had anything to do with him maybe saying anything about Zach Orr and going back and forth with the guy? I mean, again,
I'm sure
you're
it's
right.
part.
It is.
It could be part of it. It might be part of it, right? Look, we don't know what's going on internally. Clearly, John Harbaugh was not going to expand on that earlier today as it relates to Marcus Williams. But I have a hard time. As I said in the stream today, and it sparked your comment, of course, sparked an entire debate. So good on you for getting us to the 90-minute marker. I think we went 81 or 82 or something like that. But I just have a hard time pinning this entire thing down on Zach. Now, we referenced earlier on in the stream the predictability element there towards the end with the all-out pressure, 6 straight plays. Obviously, if you're Ken Dorsey on the other side, you're identifying some tells there, which helps you in crunch time. But we wouldn't even be nitpicking like this had it been for a jugs machine being in every one of these dudes' backyards. And so that's where I just kind of stop. And I get it, right? The defense, the numbers that I had up on the screen are undeniable. And just in case those of you who are just popping on and hadn't seen them, these are undeniable. And Evan, these are where I can't push back at you about these. I mean, this is a perfect storm right here. Last in passing yards per game, tied for last in passing touchdowns, last in 15 air yard completions allowed. So, like,
Bobby,
this is, yeah.
Can I get you to look at it through a different lens?
Sure, go ahead.
Imagine that our offense right now was last in these in categories like this. We've got a Hall of Fame running back. We've got probably a Hall of Fame quarterback. We've got a young stud receiver. We've got 2 stud tight ends. Who would you be thinking was responsible for that? Who would you have at the top of the list? You don't think that Monken would be catching a lot of heat?
Todd would be a part of it, of course.
And I don't think it's all on Zach. I would say some of it falls on the head coach too. I mean, he's the one ultimately who signed off on this when the guy, he might further on down the line be ready for this position, but he's not. He's not ready for it. He's in over his head. He's basically, Brock Purdy against us last year where he's seeing ghosts on the field. And I feel bad for the guy. I'm not calling for him to be fired because I don't think that's going to solve the issues, but we got to get this guy some more mentorship or something has to be done to where he doesn't feel like he's out on the island by himself and he's not catching all this heat, because that's what's going on right now. And I can't see him building confidence even through losses with what's going on. And the last thing I'll say on the defense is just they've been getting bailed out by this offense. This isn't a new thing. This wasn't just this week. It's been all 8 weeks we've seen this defense struggle to stop anybody. I mean, we lucked out last week against Tampa with Mike Evans getting hurt, but you can't tell me that game wouldn't have been a lot different if he was healthy.
Thanks for the call, brother.
Yeah,
Appreciate you as always.
Bobby.
Yep, great stuff. The streets of DC just got blessed by Evan. He's spitting too, just like Sarah was, huh? Chef, I need you to be quick. I got a ton of guest lines, but you've been holding and holding and holding. What I cut you off there at the end.
I'll be quick. I was going to talk about the defense Zach Orr thing, but I think they already covered that. I just want to pose this to you. I mean, think about the irony. Orioles didn't do enough during the trade deadline. One and done in the playoffs. Well, I mean, they're best 2 out of 3, but one and done in the playoffs. If the Ravens don't do enough before the trade deadline, Bobby, what type of irony is this gonna be? I mean,
listen, if they don't make an acquisition between now and November 5th, it is inexcusable. Yeah. That is a systematic organizational failure. Period.
Also, let Sanusi Kane or Bo Braid play. That was something that Sarah mentioned that she thought it'd be throwing them to the wolves. I disagree, because if this is the worst the secondary is gonna look, you have nothing to lose letting 2 rookies, either or, not both of them at the same time, but either or, get playing time, get reps, versus, trying to do something in mini camp, training camp, blah, blah, whatever. But that's all I got.
Thanks, Chef. Appreciate you, brother. Captain Hard says, halfway through the season, you are what your defensive ranks say you are. We can't sit and do nothing. He had more than enough time to change things. Appreciate the super chat donation, Captain Hard. The guest lines are buzzing right now. Judah, Manuel, and Deshaun, let's get you guys in here to talk a little bit. Appreciate you guys for being here tonight. Over 700 of you concurrently watching tonight's stream. Please like the video if you're enjoying the show. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so, and hit that notification bell. What's going on, Judah?
Yeah, man. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah. So look, of course we saw the defense didn't look great, right? But I want to like kind of go into something else that nobody talks about. That's been bothering me for years now with this Raven team, right? It's the like the first drive, right? We get down into the red zone. They get us down into 4th and 1. We're in field goal range. It's the very first quarter. I think it's our first series too, if I'm not mistaken. And we're going for it and being aggressive as if this is our last chance to win a game. This being, because to me, most people call that being aggressive. I call that being desperate for no reason. We weren't desperate for that first down. We could have easily took those 3 points. And every time this happens, I tell people, because I was watching this on another channel live, when every it's the same thing. I always say, take the points. Oh, Judy, you're overreacting. That was a good call, just a bad play call. I'm like, you always take the points when you have the points, because usually it comes back to bite you in the ass. And just like I thought, we lost by 2 points when that field goal would have been the difference.
Well, so points were at a premium, right? They ended up losing by 5 points. If you take the points and that opening drive, that does change the flow of the game. That changes the strategizing within the game of the game, right? No question. They've had a lot of success because they have the personnel to have success on 4th down, right? They have the heavy packages. They have the jumbo packages to have a whole lot of success on 4th down. Obviously, a horrific design, a little bit too predictable. Wildcat, they get snuffed. Ronnie Stanley, specifically on that play, got beaten badly, and Derrick Henry was met in the backfield, right? So hindsight is always 20/20, but moving forward, I hope he takes a close look at in-divisional matchups are a lot different than the success that they had, particularly when they were up, 2 or 3 scores and decided to go for it on 4th down and threw a touchdown last Monday night in Tampa, right? Very different defenses, very different situations, very different overall game strategies. And so the next time they play Cleveland, or really any in-division opponent for that matter, I hope that there's an understanding that typically, especially with the Pittsburghs, points are going to be coming at a premium, and you got to keep that in mind when it comes to play calling. So,
Right.
yeah, good
Can I
stuff,
get
dude.
one more thing off? One more
Sure.
thing. So I want to say this, and a lot of people are gonna kill me for this, but I never came off of this. Rashad Bateman has a catching problem. He dropped 2 third downs this game, not just one. He dropped 2 different third down passes when we were trying to move the chains. And of course, we all know the biggest one was downfield where he claimed the ball was in his eyes. And a lot of people say, well, the sun was in his eyes. What about all the other drop passes he's dropped? Because I'm pretty sure if I do the research, Rashad Bateman leads the team in drop passes every season he plays because he drops at least 2 passes a game.
So all 3 offensive drops there. One of the unique games where you got to talk drops on both sides of the freaking ball, right? But
Right.
there were at least 3 by my count on the offensive side of the ball, all of which came on third down. 2 from Bateman, to your point, and 1 from Nelson Aguilar. The one to Bateman, which was a fantastic escapability play from Lamar, right? Extends the play and throws a bomb down the field across his body. Bateman, look, you got to find a way to haul that in. I do have a little bit of empathy for him on that specific play. The sun was brutal out there in Cleveland yesterday, but given that track record, it's tough, right? It's tough to excuse him, especially when one of his drops, matter of fact, I think this was the Vegas game. Don't quote me on that. Can't remember the specific game. One of them turned into an interception, right? He bobbled it, and it turned into an interception. And Lamar's only thrown 1 or 2 this year. So tough game for Rashad after a career game, obviously, a week ago tonight in Tampa, but there's no question that if one of those drops, right, of Nelly and 2 from Bateman are hauled in, probably looking at a different outcome. So appreciate you, Judah.
Right. All right, man.
Guest lines are buzzing tonight. I appreciate you guys for being so active. Deshaun, let's get you in here and talk about it. What you got for me tonight?
Man, what I got for you is I'm on a fire Zach Orr train, man. I can honestly say from the very beginning, when I heard that we hired him as a defensive coordinator, I didn't agree with it. The reason being is we're a Super Bowl team. Why would we sit here and experiment with a first-year defensive coordinator? It does not make any sense. I say some people don't agree with it, but I say this. If we don't fire Zach Orr right now and try to get somebody in here with a little bit more experience that know what to do in these crucial situations, we can forget about the Super Bowl. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. The other thing I got is this. Yeah, we seen the drop passes yesterday by Rashad Bateman and Nelson Aguilar. When do we sit Nelson Aguilar and give Tylen Wallace a chance, a legitimate shot at making a play for us? He made plays last year, as we seen. I had more faith in him than Nelson Aguilar. It's time to let him go. Too many crucial drops at crucial moments. I just don't agree with it. And when do John Harbaugh go to Zach Orr and say something to him about his play call? You got to go to him and say something, at least. That's all I really got for you, man.
Thank you, Deshaun. Appreciate the call, dude. Came prepared and ready to go. Look, the Zach Orr hire, as we all know, was one that probably wasn't the first option. They had 3 or 4 of them on their staff that could have easily served that role, but took other opportunities before the Zach Orr hire was made, or before Mike McDonald was ultimately hired by Seattle. Look at Denard Wilson. He's the DC in Tennessee. Look at Mike McDonald. Of course, he's with the Seahawks, as I just mentioned. Look at Anthony Weaver. He's now the DC in Miami. So, look, this is an important window, and it is a brief window in time, right? This is a moment in time right now for the Ravens. And to Deshaun's point, it was certainly a calculated risk, being that he was a homegrown Raven, somebody that built himself up from an undrafted player to a Pro Bowl, all-pro level linebacker, and then began his career after his playing career, that is, was cut short as an intern, and then worked his way up to linebackers coach and went down to Jacksonville for a couple of years. Like, they have a lot of belief in Zach Orr, but at the end of the day, he is as newly minted as it gets, and a lot of this is not a surprise. 8 games into his play calling career to have had this kind of obviously this kind of learning curve that we're all watching, and that he's under the microscope on for sure. Manuel, one of the heroes of last night, of course, with Julian. I love you both for that, for taking over the
Hey, no
show.
problem. Hey, if you need help, just let us know. We're here.
As always. How are you digesting this one today?
Well, not officially. The 24 hours have passed, and I saw that image of JOK. I hope he's okay, but I think that was karma because of that kick. And King Henry just, you want to tackle me? Here's my shoulder.
Everything about that was clean, yet he walks away with a serious neck injury. He was carted off. Luckily, his arms or at least his hands were moving, and then reporters shared that he did have movement in all of his extremities. So prayers up for him. But yeah, it's a car crash when you get involved with Derrick Henry when he's coming downhill.
Yeah. Anybody that has played, if you know the top hitters that you had on your teams, that was a truck loaded to hit.
Oh,
but going back to Deshaun, I agree. We gotta let my dark horse, Tylan Wallace, a chance. That drop from Nelly, I was like, Tylan would have caught it. Yes, he would have been tackled immediately, but at least he would have caught the pass. There was another pass thrown to Nelly that he caught, but I saw him and he was slow, and I was like, nah. Tylan, once he grabs the ball, is like he has that sneaky speed. I don't know what it is. It's like you see it on film. When he doesn't have the ball, he has a certain level of speed, but when he has it, it's just like a burst. And I love that from him, and I think we need it. On the defense side, like I said last night with Julian, I don't know how to fix it. Is it communication? Is it the language? Is it another player? I really don't know on that front. But yeah, Harbs and EDC have a lot to do to November 5th, because if nothing is done to actually fix that side of the ball, we have wasted not just Lamar's contract. Next year is the second year of Derrick Henry, and it's voidable because he can actually leave. If he actually wants, he can leave the second year. And those $8 million, he doesn't cash it in, at least not fully, to my understanding. So this has to be the year that you at least go all in, push it to get to the big game. And if next year Derrick Henry, hey, we don't get it, but let's say we at least go to the championship game. We use Derrick Henry and we lose because of the defense. Do you think Henry
it'd be backbreaking? It'd be backbreaking. No question. I appreciate you as always, my friend. Thank you for all the comments.
Right. See you.
Talk to you soon. Mexico City's finest and a member of the Ravens flock down south. Manuel. Greg Ramsey with a super chat donation using $10 to say fire Harbaugh and hire Bill Belichick. 72-year-old Bill Belichick. Oh, you guys cracked me up. Another one from Greg says Brandon Stevens has got to go. He can't cover. Trade him and go get Marshawn Lattimore. Look, B. Steve, based on what he put forth on film last year, which was really a career year for him, he is playing below his standards. But there are far bigger issues on the back end of this secondary right now than Brandon Stevens, in my humble opinion. Evan says, can we please delete the Kohler sneak from our playbook? We get an offensive penalty every time we run it. What's the definition of insanity? I believe that is doing the same thing over and over again. Can we please delete his special teams penalties? Because that's unacceptable. Chef Trez says, I'll send my invoice in a bit. For those of you who are wondering the reference there, Julian and Chef Trez took over my stream last night when I had a 1, frozen freaking screen, and 2, a computer reboot, which I'm talking to the company that owns this laptop about, by the way, as promised. Appreciate you guys for the super chat donations as always. And let's get one more call on the evening. My friend Dre, who I'm sure is running hot today. What you got for me?
Hey, can you hear me okay?
As always, brother. Good to see you.
Good to see you too, man. So just a couple quick things. So one, there's I'm an accountant. So what we do in the accounting world is we've been running analytics for years, right? And I'm sure that the NFL has similar guys that run these analytics. The analytic of a tone-setting mistake as far as that first, when we go for it on fourth down and we call that goofy wildcat, that tonality for the remainder of the game completely threw us off. And so the coaching, this is why I agree 100% with what Sarah said earlier, where I don't think the Ravens have learned their lesson from the loss in Kansas City. The coaching has not learned their lesson from that. That's on the offensive side of the ball. Of course, I'm always going to beat the drum for, I don't know what it's going to take for the Ravens to realize that you have to get wide receiver weapons that are going to be legit, right? The last Super Bowl we win, we don't win it without Jacoby, God rest the dead. We do not win that Super Bowl without Anquan Bolden. We do not win that Super Bowl without Torrey Smith leading the lead in pass interference calls against them. We don't win without those three wide receivers. At some point, the Ravens got to take a hard look in the mirror and say, we're not good at drafting wide receivers. We're just not. So it's time for us to pay up. We got 2 more years left in this deal with Lamar. Only 2. 2 more years. That means 1 year's with Derrick Henry, possibly. And then the other year, probably not. And just real quick on the defense. I gave the analogy of Zach Orr has chess pieces, but he's playing checkers with those chess pieces. These guys are elite defensive players. But whatever the mindset and scheme that Zach Orr is currently running is not conducive to those players being put in the best position and making the right decision. And we got to stop playing 7 to 10 yards off the ball. When you're giving just average quarterbacks space off the line, if you're going to get beat down the field anyway, when I used to play defensive back, if you're going to get beat down the field anyway, I might as well put my hands on you for 5 yards. I got 5 yards to put my hands on you. But yeah, man, I appreciate you letting me get in there, man. I know that's a lot. I know that's loaded, but thank you for getting me in at the last minute.
Of course. I appreciate your perspective, my friend. And they got to start getting more stout, more disciplined on third down. Tampa Bay was unbelievably efficient. 8 for 15 on third down.
Yep.
Can't happen. Cannot happen.
No.
That is backbreaking. That is not a recipe for success. And then on the flip side, when your offense goes 2 for 10 in that same category, it's going to be a long day. And that's exactly what it was for the Ravens yesterday in Cleveland. So, Dre, appreciate you as always. Drive safe out there, my friend.
All right, brother.
Talk to you soon. I appreciate you guys for being here. Just did over an hour's worth of content, and we didn't even have time to talk about Kurt Bankert's breakdown, former NFL QB, talking about how the Ravens have an unsound defense schematically. I look forward to hearing and checking out what he has to say, and I'm sure Sarah and I will make sure that that gets into the vault tomorrow accordingly. So with that, please like the video if you haven't already done so. Subscribe to the channel so you can be notified of when I'm dropping my daily live content. Hit that notification bell as well. And I would love for you to click on the link that's included in the show notes below to learn more about Primary Residential Mortgage. Show some support to my brand sponsor because they support me and they allow me to do this on a daily basis in season for you out there. So with that, thanks, guys, as always, for dropping by the show. I will catch up with you tomorrow, if not before. And as always, I appreciate you guys for being with me here inside the channel. We'll catch up soon.